Hey guys, Wisconsin Cattle Feeder here. Hey, this video is going to be a little out of order. With the long spring we've had, I have not had time to work on videos. Trust me, there is a lot of footage on the GoPro, a lot of interesting stuff I think. So I will be working on getting those out. But today I wanted to just touch base and let everybody know that everything is planted, everything has been sprayed. 2 years ago, I bought this contraption at an online auction. Went out to Minnesota, picked it up, brought it back, and I have not had time to work on it or use it. Basically, we have been top dressing all of our nitrogen needs. Basically, the co-op comes through after the corn's up, and they spread urea, which is a form of nitrogen, and that has been fulfilling our needs. This year we went back to putting some nitrogen on with a planter, approximately 60 units, which is about a third of what we need. All of our acres that got manure, they will have another 60 units credited from the manure. So that leaves us about 60 units short, I guess we could say. So what this thing does is, it's called the side dresser. It's got a tank that holds liquid nitrogen, a ground-driven pump, and then these coulters go in between each row and meter out nitrogen, cut a slot, basically, and inject the nitrogen into the ground. So when I bought this, I will admit I made a bit of a mistake. I did not realize it was a 38-inch row machine, so not a big deal. Yesterday was a very long day in the shop. I had both Chet and Phil were here, both two of my part-time guys. And these wheels, obviously they cannot run on the rows of corn. So we had to move them around. The one option we had was to move them in to 60 inches so that they would straddle the corn rows. But as big as this thing is, I was afraid it was gonna be tippy. So what we ended up doing is we took these whole wheel modules, I guess I will call them, because you can see that they are offset. They're not like they're all lined up and centered up. So we actually took the one from the right side, put it on the left side, took the one on the left side, put it on the right side. Seemed really easy in theory, except all the bolts were pretty much seized up. And we made a bloody mess of hydraulic oil all over in here yesterday. So today I will be working on moving these coulters around. We have the bar length to cover 12 rows of corn. I only plant 8 row with an 8-row planter. So theoretically, the best thing we could do is have an 8-row machine. But it's hard to turn around at the ends with just 8 rows. Plus, I don't know if we can cover ground fast enough. So we are going to do something that the guys in the anhydrous world do, and they only put a shank every other row. The philosophy is that no plants will be farther away than 15 inches from the nitrogen. Studies have shown that the plants only need to feed off of one side anyways. Their root mass compensates for it. So I'll be taking all these coulters basically off. Some of them will get slid around. They all got to be loosened up, moved around. And when we are done, there will only be 6 coulters on here. And we will be able to cover 12 rows, 30 feet at a time. My intentions are someday that I would like to go to a 16-row planter. So we have the ability to add on, 60 inches of bar here, whatever it takes, on both ends, and add another coulter on each side. So there's 8 coulters total, and I will be able to side dress 16 rows at a time. Again, that's just some forward planning, but we have the ability, when it folds up, we have the clearance. So that's what we'll be doing today. Like I said, videos are coming, I promise. But unfortunately, you guys don't always take priority when I'm trying to beat Mother Nature, and it has been a long struggle this fall. So I'll keep touching base here as we work on it today. All right, guys, so I got the row units moved around here now. They are now set on 60-inch centers where they need to be. hopefully. I had to take 3 off and move these 6 around. I don't know if anybody knows much about 28% nitrogen fertilizer, but it is basically like liquid salt. So it is extremely corrosive. I ended up having to, believe it or not, I had the ones on the outside wings, the nuts all loosened right up. I slid them around. The closer we got to the tank here, to the center of the bar, the more corroded we got. Actually, the ones that I had to take off, I ended up just cutting the U-bolts off. My thinking is that as the wings fold up, they're probably dripping fertilizer on everything. So just something that has to be contended with. And this is not a new machine by any means, but it was cheap, I guess we'll say. So the next thing I thought I should probably work on is the pump, which is a double piston pump. Basically, this piston moves back and forth here inside of these 2 chambers here. Like I said, fertilizers, this 28% nitrogen fertilizer is really corrosive. The pump wouldn't even move when I first started working on this here. It ran freely actually when I bought this 2 years ago, but it's been sitting around. So I decided to take the whole pump apart. Everything inside is pretty gummed up, corroded up. So we will get everything cleaned up, put it all back together, and I think it'll work. So then we have to replace all the hoses. As I was moving things around here, I noticed that a lot of the hoses are getting brittle. So I'm not even gonna take a chance. We'll just get them swapped out while we're in the shop here, and we should be good to go then. All right, guys, so I got the pump back together here, cleaned it up quite a bit, got a little aggressive with the impact, putting some of the bolts back together, but that's why you always carry threaded rod in your shop. I know, probably should have been using the impact. But anyway, thought I would just kind of give you a little overview on how this pump actually works. So this is a ground driven pump. It's got a tire on there. Pipe wrench is obviously not standard. So the wheel turns when the machine goes down, the wheel contacts the ground, starts turning. This mechanism here, I can't exactly tell you how it works inside. I've never had one apart, but it controls the plunger or the piston that goes back and forth in here. You can control how far the piston plunges with this mechanism here. There's a little adjustment tool right here. So you can set that. That sets basically the amount of flow that is going back to the row units. And then, so the piston moves back and forth in here. I can kind of show you if I can do 8 things at once here. You can kind of see the piston going back and forth. So basically, the fluid comes in through the top here. And fills up this cavity, and then it is squeezed. When this piston comes back, it is squeezed down, and these are actually check valves down on the bottom here. It goes down through and then goes out, and obviously it's alternating. So when these units, when the piston's pulling back, it's got to pull product back from the tank. So these check valves keep it from pulling the product back from the row units, and then the cap here has something similar to it so that it can't, so when it's pushing, it doesn't push the product back up into the tank. So kind of a crude explanation there, but so I got everything cleaned up here, and everything runs fairly smooth. One concern that I have is that there is still, I don't want to wire brush anything here, so I just rinsed everything out and got all the chunks and stuff out. I'm concerned about some rust particles and stuff, some bigger rust particles going through. So right now, this machine does not have a filter after the pump. It's got a filter before the pump to filter the product out. I will put, when I redo the plumbing here, I will plumb in a secondary strainer here so that when the fertilizer comes through, any rust chunks or anything that's going to come off that pump, which is inevitable until it gets shined back up again, do not end up into the row units here. All right, guys, so the pump's all back together. I did lie to you a little bit before I put this back together. I told you the product came in the top, went out the bottom. It's actually the opposite. Not that it really matters. Everything still works the same. So now I need to do some measuring to see what I need for hoses to change all the plumbing out. So basically, product comes from the tank, goes through the strainer, goes to the pump kicks it back here, and then goes through these tubes, and goes down to these row units. I'll take apart one of these row units here as long as I've got it laying on the floor here, the ones that we don't need. So basically, product comes in through this hose, goes into this nozzle body here. Basically, all this is doing is one, holding the hoses in place so they don't get caught by the coulters, and two, it's a check valve so that there's a diaphragm in here. When product gets shut, when pressure gets shut off, stuff doesn't dribble out here all the time. So it goes through there, and then goes down to where it's actually metered out. So this is the actual metering orifices, they're called. There's many different sizes. You can see it's a actually pretty good size hole on these because we're putting so many gallons out. Inside here, I'm not 100% certain what these are. I will be honest. I'm gonna have to do a little bit of research on those. Typically there's a strainer in there, but I'm not so sure what that is. But then they have, the company that I bought this from, they have this stainless steel thing made here. Helps keep everything directed away from the coulters. So yeah, I just need to do some plumbing here. I got to go up to my storeroom and see what I've got for products up there. And then whatever I don't need, I will have to go buy. I did find kind of a little treasure chest here. This is a water tank for washing your hands off because you don't want that stuff sitting on your hands all the time. It does get sticky. So if you got to work on something, have a tank full of water, you can rinse your hands off. I had to take that off because one of the coulters is mounted right where this was. In the process, I snapped the bolts off. So I did find the manuals for this. And this one is the pump manual. I think it's gonna be pretty well useless. So I think what I'm just gonna do is I'm just gonna put the pump settings back to where they were before I start taking things apart. Because I did some checking online. With the metering discs that we have in here, I can tell pretty well what my pressure needs to be at a certain speed. So we can just kind of play with it and check it. Kind of a trial and error. Eventually, I would like to get, they're called visual flow gauges. So each row would be metered here, and then go down to each row, and then there's little float balls. We have them on our planner. They can easily tell you if your rows are plugged up or not. For this year, I'm not going to go through that. The other thing I would like to do is I would like to put our egg leader controls on there, not to control it, but just so I can monitor the flow of what's going through. So, but yeah, like I said, this is not a new machine by any means. She's kind of old, she's kind of rough, but I think it will definitely do the job we're looking for. All right, guys, so I've got all the plumbing put on. Ran all new hoses, everything. Missing a couple of these brackets. A couple were missing. I could only find 2 where we went to, so I'll have to get those again. So just a few things I have left to do. I've got these brackets to put back in and tighten up. They just hold the shims for the wheels. And I got to put the fresh water tank back on. That way we can wash our hands and stuff off. So otherwise, I took it out just in the driveway. I ran it on the ground, made sure the pump spun easily. Everything seems to be working fine. So the only other thing we have to do is I got to take the duals off the tractor. I just have a hard time running that much corn over. So I could see we have a hydraulic hose that's leaking. It's on the wing fold, so I'm not too terribly worried about it. So hopefully tomorrow morning I'll get up early to do chores. We do have a family function tomorrow afternoon, but maybe I can see if I can get some product through this thing and make sure everything's gonna work. So have a great day, guys.